We are gathered here the first night of Passover. Passover is an 8-day holiday. On the first 2 nights of Passover, we have a Seder in which we will read the Haggadah. It's a storybook that recites the struggles of Jewish people over 3,000 years ago. We will follow specific procedures that past generations have continued to use to the present. Passover is a reminder of when the Jewish people were slaves in Egypt and a celebration of our freedom. Please, everyone pour the first cup of wine. During the Seder service, each person drinks 4 times from the wine cup. We will say the Kiddush, which is the blessing of the wine. We always say the Kiddush every Shabbat and during all Jewish holidays. Please stand. We are about to drink the first cup of wine. Let us all raise the cup, recline to the left, to celebrate that we are now free people, and say together, Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine. We usually say the Kiddush before the blessing for washing our hands. We will wash our hands 2 times during the Seder. We are not eating matzah next, so we do not say the blessing for washing our hands for the blessing of the bread or matzah. We now wash our hands. Please be seated. Pour the second cup of wine. The Seder plate has 6 symbols. This is the karpas. Parsley. The Hebrew word is karpas. We dip the parsley into salt water. The salt water represents slavery and the sorrow of their tears. Let us all dip and say together, Blessed art thou, O Lord, our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruit of the earth. During the 8 days of Passover, we eat certain kinds of matzah that has no yeast. This reminds us of when the Jewish slaves escaped to freedom from Egypt. They didn't have time to let the yeast rise, so what they made came out flattened. Now it is a tradition that one of you steal the afikomen which is a matzah that we break into 2 pieces. At each table, the leader shall take the middle matzah and break it into 2 unequal portions. The larger piece is held for the afikomen, which is hidden. It is a Seder custom for children to find the stolen matzah and to demand a ransom so that it can be used for the afikomen. Anybody at each table can steal the matzah piece and wrap it in a napkin. Who's going to steal from our table? We need the afikomen to complete the Seder. We cannot leave the Seder until we eat a piece of the afikomen. Leader, you need to keep an eye on the afikomen at your table. Our forefathers ate matzah like this in Egypt. Let everyone who is hungry come and eat with us. Let everyone come and join us at our Passover feast. This year we celebrate here. Next year we will celebrate in Jerusalem. Now we are slaves. Next year we will be free. Because Pharaoh tried very hard to destroy Jewish children, the youngest person at our Seder asks the 4 questions as a reminder. Let us ask the youngest person on this Seder table to ask us 4 questions. Tonight is different. How? Tonight, why do we eat only matzah, not matzah and chometz? We remember the flat, hard bread our ancestors made. They left Egypt in a hurry. They did not have time to let the bread rise. Tonight, why do we eat only bitter herbs, not other vegetables? We eat bitter herbs and remember our ancestors were slaves. Tonight, why do we dip twice, not once? We dip parsley in salt water. We remember the tears of our ancestors. The second time, we dip bitter herb into harosis, which is apples and nuts, to sweeten the bitterness of slavery. Tonight, why do we recline at the table, not sitting? We recline to the left as a sign of freedom and comfort. Now we will read the story of the Exodus. Pick someone at your table to read. Thousands of years ago, the Jewish people were slaves in Egypt. They were slaves under King Pharaoh for 400 years. The Egyptians did not want the Jewish people to be free. One day, Pharaoh decided to kill all the Jewish baby boys. Yocheved did not want Pharaoh to kill her son, Moses. She put Moses in a basket on the river. Pharaoh's daughter found the baby, took him home, and named him Moses. Moses means taken from the water. Moses grew up in the court of the Pharaoh. He never forgot he was Jewish. One day he saw an Egyptian beating a Jewish slave. Moses wanted to protect the slave, so he killed the Egyptian. Someone saw it and told the authorities. Moses was in a lot of trouble. He ran away from Egypt. He moved to a place near Mount Sinai and became a shepherd. Then God asked Moses to go back to Egypt and free the Jewish slaves. Moses returned to Egypt. He told Pharaoh to let the Jews go free, but Pharaoh refused to listen. God decided to punish Pharaoh. God sent 10 plagues. What are the 10 plagues? Blood. All the water in the land of Egypt turned into blood. The Egyptians could not drink or cook or wash. The only way they could have water was by buying it from Jews. Frogs. Frogs were all over the country, in beds, dishes, on tables, chairs, floors. Slimy frogs were everywhere. The sound of their croaking drove the Egyptians crazy. Lice. Lice came crawling up from the ground and into people's clothing and hair. The Egyptians were sick and sore from itching and scratching, but Pharaoh was stubborn. He would not allow the Jews to go free. Wild animals. Wild animals suddenly appeared, killing and destroying everything in their path. Again, only the Jews in Goshen were spared. Pestilence. The Egyptians' animals, their cattle, sheep, and their beautiful horses, the pride and joy of Egypt, sickened and died. Boils. Now everyone in Egypt was covered with horrible, painful blisters and boils. They couldn't stand, sit, or lie down. The suffering was terrible, and still Pharaoh refused to let the Jews go. Hail. A horrendous hailstorm swept across Egypt. Enormous pieces of ice with flashes of fire inside destroyed all the flowers, the gardens, and the trees. Locusts. And then the locusts came, millions and millions of them, in great, dark, buzzing clouds. They swept across Egypt like a razor, mowing down and gobbling up the grains and crops in the fields. Darkness. An inky black darkness, so thick that no candle or fire could shine through, covered the country. The Egyptians sat glued to their chairs or lay trembling in their beds. Firstborn. At midnight, on the 15th of Nisan, death struck the land of Egypt. Every firstborn man, boy, and beast died. Egypt was filled with cries and weeping. But in Goshen the Jews rejoiced. In Goshen the angel of death passed over every Jewish house. Not a single person died. We will name each plague. We will use our little finger, and we will dip it into the wine cup. We will place a drop of wine on our plates. We want to remember the Egyptians suffered too. And now we name the 10 plagues. Blood, frogs, lice, wild beasts, sickness, boils, hail, locust, darkness, death of the firstborn. Will the next reader please read the next story? God sent the first 9 plagues, but Pharaoh was stubborn. Pharaoh refused to let the Jews go free, so God sent the 10th plague to kill all the firstborn Egyptians. The Jewish people put blood from a lamb on the door of their houses. The angel of death saw the blood and passed over their houses. The angels came to all Egyptian homes and killed the firstborn. Pharaoh's son was killed. The Pharaoh was fed up. He told Moses to take the Jewish slaves out of Egypt. All the Jewish people hurried. They wanted to leave and be free. They had no time to let their bread rise. They ate unleavened bread. Pharaoh changed his mind again. He ordered his army to capture the Jewish people and bring them back to Egypt. The Jewish people saw the soldiers coming. How would they cross the Red Sea? "Oh no," they cried. So God told Moses to raise his hand toward the sea. The sea divided, and the Jewish people walked across on dry land. The Egyptian army tried to follow them, but the waters closed, and all the soldiers drowned. The Jewish people were now free. We celebrate the holiday of Passover to remember their freedom experiences. We need to refill your cup of wine. We drink 4 cups of wine as a reminder of the 4 times mentioned in the Torah that God promises to redeem the people of Israel from slavery. There are 4 reasons. I will bring you out, I will deliver you, I will redeem or free you, and I will take you out to be my people. These expressions are mentioned in the Bible under Exodus 6:7. We are now going to sing a song called Dayenu. For each of these miracles, it would have been enough. If he had brought us out of Egypt and not judged against them, it would have been enough. Dayenu, Dayenu, it would have been enough. If he had judged against them and not destroyed their idols, it would have been enough. Dayenu, enough. Dayenu, enough. If he had destroyed their idols and not killed their firstborn, it would have been enough. Dayenu, enough. Dayenu, enough. If he had killed their firstborn and had not given us their treasure, it would have been enough. Dayenu, enough. Dayenu, enough. If he had given us their treasure and had not split the Red Sea, it would have been enough. Dayenu, enough. Dayenu, enough. If he had split the Red Sea and had not drought us through it dry, it would have been enough. Dayenu, enough. Dayenu, enough. If he had not drought us through it dry and had not drowned our foes in it, it would have been enough. Dayenu, enough. Dayenu, enough. If he had drowned our foes in it and had not helped us 40 years in the desert, it would have been enough. Dayenu, enough. Dayenu, enough. If he had helped us 40 years in the desert and had not fed us the manna, it would have been enough. Dayenu, enough. Dayenu, enough. If he would have fed us with the manna and had not given us the Sabbath, it would have been enough. Dayenu, enough. Dayenu, enough. If he had given us the Sabbath and had not brought us to Mount Sinai, it would have been enough. Daihenu enough. Daihenu enough. The next is Zerah, Hebrew for a shank bone. The Zerah is a reminder of the Jewish people using the blood of a lamb on their doorposts. We remember the lamb and the blood. We remember that God passed over the Jewish homes, but the Egyptians did not have blood on their doorposts. So God killed the firstborn children of the Egyptians. This is the matzah. Matzah, which is unleavened bread. This is to remember that the Jewish people had to hurry and leave Egypt. They did not have time to bake bread. We eat matzah to remember the flat bread our ancestors ate. This is maror. Maror, which is a bitter vegetable. Slavery was very hard for the Jewish people. We eat bitter herbs to remember the slavery in Egypt. Let us pour the second glass of wine and say the blessing. Blessed art thou, O Lord, our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine. Recline to your left side and drink the cup of wine. We will now wash our hands. Hand washing is a symbol of respect before making the blessing for the matzah. Now please go and wash your hands, and when you come back, please be quiet and no talking or signing. Please be seated. We will now say the blessing for the washing of hands. Blessed art thou, O Lord, our God, ruler of the universe, who made us holy with his commandments and commanded us to wash our hands. We will now break the matzah and give everyone a piece. But before eating the matzah, we say two blessings. Blessed art thou, O Lord, our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the bread from the earth. We will now say the second blessing. Blessed art thou, our Lord, O Lord, our God, ruler of the universe, who has made us holy by thy commandments and commanded us to eat the matzah. Now recline to the left and eat the matzah. Next is the maror, which is the Hebrew word for bitter herb. Tonight, we put bitter herbs with the matzah. Blessed art thou, O Lord, our God, ruler of the universe, who has made us holy by thy commandments, and commanded us to eat bitter herbs. Now eat the matzah with the maror. It's very bitter. Put some of the horoses between two pieces of matzah. The wise Rabbi Hillel of the first century made a sandwich with matzah and horoses. So let us eat the Hillel sandwich. Now, we will eat a hard-boiled egg, which is called a beitza. Let us begin the meal with hard-boiled eggs and salt water. The egg has come to be symbolic of mourning. They are served to a bereaved family as their first meal after a funeral. At the same time, the roundness of the egg offers encouragement, for the wheel of fortune is also round, and in its turning can bring joy and happiness. As you eat the egg, recline to your left. We hope you all enjoyed your meal. Now we continue the Seder. We ate the festive meal, and we wait for our dessert, the afikomen. But it is gone from our table, and I assume that someone hid it. I offer a reward to the person who finds and returns the afikomen. Who among you took it? Can't find it? We can't continue. Oh, you found it. Oh, you found it. Terrific. Now we will eat it. Who found it? We will now break the afikomen and eat. We will now read the grace after meal blessing called Birkat Hamazon. Let us praise God's name forever and ever. We praise you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe. You feed the whole world and take care of us. With goodness and kindness, we have good food. We will now pour the third cup of wine. We will drink the third cup of wine to thank God for freeing our ancestors from slavery in Egypt and for the food from the earth. Let us sign and say the blessing together. Blessed art thou, O Lord, our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine. Recline to your left and drink. Now we have a cup of wine for Elijah. We open the door to welcome Elijah. Thank you. We welcome Elijah. Let Elijah come in and drink wine with us. One legend says that the prophet Elijah visits every Jewish home on Passover and blesses everyone. Another legend says Elijah will announce when the Messiah is coming. The spirit of Elijah blesses us all. Now let us close the door. Thank you. We will now read the Song of Praise. We praise you for good deeds, great kindness, and truth. Let all people praise God. We thank God for all the gifts of our world, for the springtime, and for bringing us together to celebrate this festival of freedom. We will now pour the last cup of wine. We will now drink the fourth cup of wine. Let us raise our cups and say the blessing together. Blessed art thou, O Lord, our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine. Recline to your left. Now our Seder is complete. Let us sign and say together. Next year in Jerusalem. Our Seder is complete. Next year we hope to have the Seder as all free people, as there are still people who are not free. Let us say, or sign, my favorite song called Chad Gayo. It is an unhappy adventure of this kind father who brought the goat for his son for only 2 coins. Chad Gayo means only one kid, and one kid is a young goat. Zuzim means coin. This song concludes with an expression of hope. Had Gayo, my father bought for 2 zuzim. Had Gayo. Then came the cat and ate the kid. My father bought for 2 zuzim. Had Gayo. Then came the dog and bit the cat that ate the kid my father bought for 2 zuzim. Had Gayo. Then came the stick and beat the dog that bit the cat that ate the kid my father bought for 2 zuzim. Had Gayo. Then came a fire and burned the stick that beat the dog that bit the cat that ate the kid my father bought for 2 zuzim. Had Gayo. Then came the water and extinguished the fire, that burned the stick, that beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the kid, my father bought for 2 zuzim. Had gayo, had gayo. Then came an ox that drank the water, that extinguished the fire, that burned the stick, that beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the kid my father bought for 2 zuzim. Had gayo, had gayo. Then came the butcher that killed the ox, that drank the water, that extinguished the fire, that burned the stick, that beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the kid my father bought for 2 zuzim. Had gayo, had gayo. Then came the angel of death and killed the butcher, that killed the ox, that drank the water, that extinguished the fire, that burned the stick, that beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the kid my father bought for 2 zuzim. Had gayo, had gayo. Then came the Holy One, blessed be he, and destroyed the angel of death, that killed the butcher, that killed the ox, that drank the water, that extinguished the fire, that burned the stick, that beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the kid my father bought for 2 zuzim. Had gayo, had gayo. Boy, it's warm in here.